All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, Changing Your Mindset, Change Your Health. Before we do get started, just a couple of items to take care of as usual. We will hopefully have some time for questions at the end of the presentation, and you can type those into your question box in the lower portion of your control panel. And we will be posting a recording of the webinar online, but if you would like a copy of the presentation in PDF format, or if your question does not get answered today, please email our support inbox, which will be shown at the end as well. All right, we've got Coach Katie Joe today to give our presentation, so I will pass it over to her.
Great, thank you, Shelby, and thank you to everyone tuning into the webinar. So we have this webinar, the idea for this webinar today, because we often recommend mindfulness, but we felt like maybe it's a term that is not well understood by many people. So today we really want to dive into mainly two things, mindfulness and positive thinking. So we'll talk about what they are, how to be mindful, and how to think positively, and why to do those things. We'll also discuss some real-life examples from our own Health Check 360 team. Finally, we'll go into recommended resources. And as Shelby just said, there should be time at the end of the webinar to dive into any questions that any of you may have. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with discussing what mindfulness is. There are many definitions out there, but this is a simple one that I liked. Mindfulness is paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, in the present moment, and non-judgmentally. So this quote actually comes from a certain researcher who we will talk a little bit more about in just a couple of slides. But basically, mindfulness means that you are focusing on the present, consciously not letting your mind wander to the past or to the future. So it's something that you can practice really at any time, but some common times to practice mindfulness include eating. This is one of the Health Check 360 Health Coach's top mindfulness recommendations. So this really means focusing solely on whatever you are consuming. I know personally I can say that there have been times that I've been eating while also working on another task, and all of a sudden I find that my plate is empty and I hardly even remember eating whatever was on my plate. And I'm guessing that this has probably happened to you before as well. So mindful eating is something that can help prevent this from happening. It can also aid in eating for the right reasons. Many times, especially around this time of the year, the holiday season, we find ourselves eating for reasons other than being physically hungry, needing to refuel our bodies, or for providing nutritional nourishment, which are really the reasons that we are meant to eat. So to practice mindful eating, while being present on your food or your drink, slow down and really pay attention to the taste, smell, and even texture of whatever you are consuming. Try not to eat or drink while working, watching TV, or even engaging on your phone. Try to really focus on the food. Consider asking yourself the following questions. Why am I eating right now? Am I truly hungry, or am I eating because I'm bored, I'm happy, I'm sad, etc.? Where did this food come from? This is always a good question to ask yourself, even if you're not practicing mindful eating. Will this meal or snack get me closer to my goal or farther from it? Mindful eating should also help you realize when your body is full, rather than eating to the point of being stuffed. This is not only because you are consciously paying attention to how you feel while eating, but also because you are slowing down. It does take your it takes your brain approximately 20 minutes to receive the signal that you are full. Walking is another great time to practice mindfulness. Mindful walking entails paying attention to your surroundings while out on a walk. So rather than thinking about your to-do list, focus on how the sun and the breeze feel on your skin, the bright colors of the landscaping around you. maybe even the crunch of the leaves, or probably for some of our viewers today, the crunch of snow under your feet. You could also pay attention to your breathing or to your gait. Meditating, of course, is a great time to practice mindfulness. Really, the main objective of meditating is practicing mindfulness. With meditation, I'm not going to dive too far into this today because we are actually planning to do a full webinar on meditation in 2018. So stay tuned for that. I apologize, my slides got a little bit ahead of me there for a second. But with meditation, I will say that it is a technique that is backed by science and that it can be done in many different ways. Practicing mindfulness before bed can be an excellent part of an unwinding routine, which is a great way to enhance the quality of your sleep. Be sure to listen in next month as we discuss the ways that proper sleep benefits your health in our January webinar. And lastly, waiting in line is a great time to practice mindfulness as well. Again, especially this time of the year, I'm guessing that you may be out doing a lot of holiday shopping, and of course, there are lines. So while you're standing there, rather than worrying about all the day's events or what you need to do as soon as you leave, focus on what is happening right in that moment. Who are you surrounded by? What do you smell? How do you feel? Really pay attention to all five senses. So while it may not be realistic to always practice mindfulness while doing these activities, although that may be ideal, a great start would even be to practice mindfulness maybe at 1 to 2 meals per week or on 1 to 2 walks a week. Just getting started with that, you may notice some benefits immediately. And so speaking of noticing benefits, now that we've discussed the what and the how of mindfulness, we will dive more into the why. So mindfulness is something that has been researched, and research tells us that there are many benefits to being mindful, including, as listed here, better ability to handle stress, reduced anxiety and depression, increased body satisfaction, improved cognition, and increased ability to focus. In fact, there is so much research behind the benefits of mindfulness that it is something that is starting to be taught to and practiced by elementary school students all over the world, including right here in the United States. Since 2007, the organization Mindful Schools has impacted over 1.5 million students in the world. And of course, adults greatly benefit from mindfulness as well. And a big reason is because of our stress levels. According to the American Institute of Stress, stress is a basic cause of 60% of all human illness and disease. They state that stress increases your risk of heart disease by 40%, your risk of heart attack by 25%, and your risk of stroke by 50%. Stress is clearly a huge problem in our country today. Anything that we can do to help better manage our stress, of course, is extremely beneficial. If this is something that interests you and you are maybe doing some research on your own or reading about mindfulness or stress, you may frequent the abbreviation MBSR. So I wanted to include a slide on that. MBSR stands for Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction. Dr. Jon Kabat-Zinn founded this program way back in 1979. He is a researcher who quoted the definition of mindfulness that we started with today. So it's an 8-week program. It's still currently offered by the University of Massachusetts. To date, more than 24,000 people have completed the program. So the program entails multiple techniques. It includes, but is not limited to, awareness mindfulness, body scan, mindful eating, and even mindful stretching. I won't spend a lot of time on this one specific program, but again, I did want to include it because if you are reading about stress, about mindfulness, it's very, very likely that you will run into that abbreviation. So now we will transition into discussing more on the power of positive thinking. This is a topic we wanted to include in the webinar because it is another way that we are able to improve our health by using our minds. I don't think we need a definition of positive thinking. It really is exactly what it sounds like. Again, something that has been researched, and the benefits of positive thinking are found to be extremely similar to the benefits that we discussed with practicing mindfulness. So although positive thinking may be a pretty straightforward term, there are several different techniques that you can use to practice positive thinking. So let's discuss a few. First would be positive language and affirmations. Be mindful of the language you use and try to stick with positive language as often as possible. And with that, I'm not just referring to the language that you use to communicate with others, but even the language that you use with yourself, which can be referred to as self-talk. We average about 50,000 thoughts per day, and each of those single thoughts can trigger physical reactions in our bodies. So I want you to go ahead and think of a situation or maybe a person that makes you feel happy, something or someone that gives you joy. Literally think about that right now. You may have noticed that you physically smiled or felt more relaxed without even consciously doing so. Now, on the other hand, if you think of a situation that has caused you to feel angry, sad, nervous, or anxious, you are likely to experience maybe an upset stomach, maybe fidgeting, maybe even sweating. So having many negative thoughts each day can lead to stress-induced physical conditions in the body, like eczema, and as previously noted, even more serious conditions like heart disease, heart attack, and stroke. So positive affirmations may be a positive phrase or mantra that you think or say out loud. An example would be saying or thinking to yourself each morning, I'm going to have a great day. Even if maybe you wake up on the wrong side of the bed, you don't quite believe that, but you tell yourself that that is beneficial. Also, reframing your thoughts. This technique starts with being mindful of the language of your self-talk. If you are aware of negative thoughts or statements, you can then reframe them. Here's an example that actually truly happened to me this week. I was rushing to get to work on time, and I was carrying over my dog's bowl of food to set on the ground where he eats, and I spilled it all over the floor. I caught myself immediately having a negative thought regarding this, something along the lines of course I make a mess when I'm already running late. But as soon as I noticed I was having that negative thought, I consciously chose to reframe it in a positive way. I next thought to myself, thankfully, I spilled Duke's dinner and not my own. He will eat it off the floor and I don't need to worry about it. And I literally let him eat it off the floor and I went to work and all was well. Next, a daily gratitude practice. There are also several different ways to go about having a daily gratitude practice. You may keep a physical journal where at a specific time each day, typically first thing in the morning or just before going to bed, you write down what you are feeling grateful for presently. I will share with you guys that I've actually been doing this for years and find that it helps me seek out good in every day. I'm always looking for something positive that I will write down that night as what I'm grateful for the day. You can also make a mental list of things that you feel grateful for when you're feeling stressed or noticing negative thoughts. Personally, I do like having a physical journal because if I ever find myself in a funk or not having the greatest day, I actually go back to that journal and read through some of my entries and find that this really helps me to change my mindset for the better. And lastly, visualization. This is something that you can practice by visualizing a positive outcome or a positive goal that you are focused on achieving. It might even be as simple as visualizing having a really good day. This is something I'm guessing that maybe you've heard of athletes practicing this. Pretty popular in the world of sports and athletics. So while throughout the webinar I have sprinkled some examples, I did want to share other specific ways that some of our very own health coaches here at Health Check 360 actually practice mindfulness and positive thinking in their own daily lives. So Coach Trent likes to listen to several guided meditations each week, which helps him practice mindfulness. There are many guided meditations available online and via different phone apps, many of which are free. So using a guided meditation is a really great way to get started with meditation. If you don't have experience with it, it's a great kind of way to dip your toes in the water, you could say. Coach Cassie is mindful each day of making it a priority to get at least 8 hours of sleep per night. She knows that doing so sets her up for success the next day. So even if she has extra laundry to do or a TV show that she really wants to watch, she makes sure that she's in bed early enough to get her 8 hours of sleep. For me personally, a specific time that I like to practice mindfulness each day is during my dog's daily walk. So while he is busy getting into whatever he can find, I'm practicing focusing on the present moment. If my mind starts wandering to something that has happened in the past or may happen in the future, I do my best to redirect it to focusing on my walk. I found that it's amazing how beautiful your surroundings can be when you really are paying attention to them. Coach Michelle loves music, so when she finds herself feeling stressed, one strategy that she may use is to take a break from whatever she's doing to mindfully listen to an entire song from start to finish before going back to what she's doing. I really like this technique, as I think it's one that's maybe a little less popular than the others. And listening to music can be a good stress reliever in itself, so especially if you can do it mindfully. For Coach Stephanie, if something goes wrong or creates negativity within her, she will practice positive thinking by consciously thinking about things that she is grateful for. So these small habits, again, can change the way our bodies react. They can literally kind of rewire our brain. Our thoughts can be directly tied to our physical health, as each thought can trigger different chemical reactions and a release of different hormones in the brain. The habits and techniques that we've discussed today don't come naturally for everyone, and that's okay. They're not meant to. Like anything else, the key is to practice mindfulness and positivity. So with time, I think that you will find that it does start to become routine. So if you are looking for different ways to help you practice these strategies, or for additional information, here are some resources that we recommend. First is the book Life is Good, which is written by the two brothers who created the t-shirt company, Life is Good. The book is about the power of optimism, and it's a fantastic, enjoyable, easy read. Of all the books I've read, and I do consider myself a bookworm, this is the single book that I recommend the most of any book, not just books related to mindfulness or positivity. Also, the website mindful.org, which is actually a magazine subscription as well if you choose to sign up for it. It's a very comprehensive website regarding mindfulness, and it has many great articles and different ideas, so that would be a great resource to check out. And hopefully this name sounds familiar to you. Earlier in the webinar, I mentioned Jon Kabat-Zinn was the creator of the Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction, or MBSR program, which again, he's been working on this research for over 30 years. He's written many books. Any of those books that he has written would be great resources. And finally, if meditation is something that you're curious on or you would like to know more about, and you just can't wait until our forthcoming webinar on it, Unplug is a great book for beginners. Also an easy read. kind of interesting. The author did not have any sort of background in meditation or wellness whatsoever. But within 2 years of her first meditation experience, she fell in love with it so much that she actually opened the world's first drop-in meditation studio, which is currently open in Los Angeles. So at this point, this does wrap up our webinar. So I will hand things back over to Shelby as she lets us know about our upcoming webinars, and we will open it up to questions as well.
Perfect. Thanks, Katie Jo. I do want to add just a couple things to this. That book that Katie Jo recommended, the Life is Good book, that first one there, she actually gave that to me as a gift this year, and it is fantastic. And I'm actually gifting it to 2 separate people for Christmas this year. So it's not one of those books that is over your head. It's really simple. It's really fun read, and it's a really quick read. So I'm going to second that recommendation for that specific book. And just to add, just on the whole webinar here, Katie Jo is one of the best coaches that we have when it comes to staying positive and being mindful. She's actually not in our home office even, but whenever we have meetings, when we go away from it, everyone says, wow, Katie Jo, she's really thoughtful, she's really mindful, she's really positive. So that just shows me that it's contagious as well. So if you're positive, your coworkers are going to be more positive, your family's going to be more positive, your friends are going to be more positive. It's just one of those things that it spreads. So just keep that in mind too. You're not only affecting your own health, you're affecting others around you as well. So just wanted to add that before we go on to questions here. But again, next webinars, Katie Jo mentioned the first one, the sleep science. That's going to be in January. How to sleep your way to better health. We'll give you some science behind it and then give you some good tips on sleep hygiene and things like that to keep you up to speed on your sleep habits. And then February, since the Olympics start then, we're going to kind of go on that theme, and we're going to talk about getting active in the office or wherever your work setting is. We'll try to make a good variety of tips to stay active throughout the day, because we know how important it is to move your body throughout the day. All right, and then you can contact us too if you don't have any questions today, but if something pops up later, you can always email us or give us a call at the bottom there. We are on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we have our blog, which is where you will watch the past webinars, and you can watch this recording once we put it up in the next 24 hours or so. And we are on Instagram as well. So with that, like Katie Jo said, let's open it up for some questions. All right, I'm not seeing any questions coming through, but like I said, if something does come up for you guys, please do give us a call, shoot us an email anytime, and we'll be more than happy to chat throughout the year. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a good rest of your day.